Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. It is the middle episode. We're the sandwich. This is the meat of the week, right? Today, it's Mike Janda back on. We had such a great conversation before. We're going to continue it and then maybe talk a little bit about what are some ways that what are things that we can do as designers, because we are problem solvers in this kind of craziness that's all happening. It's coronavirus. I don't even know what day it is, right? But we're in our houses. But Mike, you had an exciting morning that had nothing to do with the coronavirus. What happened in Utah?
I woke up at 7 a.m. and the doors were shaking and the windows were shaking. And I was like, that seems like an earthquake. And then I rolled back over and went back to sleep and checked the news a little bit later. And it was a 5.7 earthquake in Utah, in Salt Lake City area where I live this morning. So super cool, right? You might as well throw an earthquake on top of all of the other chaos in the world right now.
Right, but you said this was the first time in 18 years you had never experienced it, right?
Yeah, I've lived here for 18 years. We live on a major fault line. The Wasatch Front is like a major fault line, and it's 80 or 100 years overdue for a major earthquake. So I don't know if 5.7 by California standards, that's like a normal day. So 5.7 isn't too dramatic, but it was shaking everything. So it was, we'll see if there's some aftershocks or whatever they call those.
Dimmy, he's in London. He says, waiting for the alien invasion in April or a zombie apocalypse, right?
Something. Yeah, well, the coronavirus could mutate to a zombie type of thing. We'll see what happens.
So one of the things that I love about you is that you have a heart for people at the beginning of their journey. And I thought we'd kind of start there today. So kind of getting our head a little bit off. It's great for everybody. I'm glad everybody's here. Just so you know, make sure your thing says all panelists and attendees. And that way we can all see what everybody's talking about in the chat. So you have written books about people in school and as they start their journey, but then you also have your pricing book really that has to do about people who are like us, people who are here, who are starting their own business, or they're doing freelance and they're really, nobody talks to us about that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that stuff changes. And how do you know when is a good time? And so how have you always had like a heart for people at the beginning of journeys?
Yeah, I think I didn't have any help, and I think that's where it comes from. When I graduated from school, I couldn't get my first job. I was just struggling. I started at Alpha Graphics. I told some of this story last time, and so it was just so at the bottom, in my opinion, of the design industry. And then even starting my agency, it was pre-social media and pre-YouTube, and I didn't have any mentors other than books. I didn't even know how to find somebody because the world wasn't connected the way that it is today. So I think that a lot of my heart to the people who are starting out and trying to figure this industry out comes from the fact that I had to figure it out all on my own without somebody to call or ask, or somebody's YouTube or Instagram channel to follow where they're answering questions I didn't even know to ask at the time. And so I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was just going to say, and maybe it's something just in the nature of my soul that I care about people, and I see the good in people, and I love connecting with people, and I love making new friends, and that's just part of my persona. So I think that has something to do with it too.
Were you like that even as a little kid?
Not that I remember. I was really shy, introverted growing up until I got into kind of high school. And then I hung around my best buddy who was way extroverted. And he kind of pulled me out of my shell a bit. So, but until then, I was pretty introverted. And I think a lot of designers are introverts by nature. I think that's the nature of the designer. We're super outgoing and connected with our 5 friends in our art class. And then to everybody else in the world, we're massively insecure. And I still battle that now, even, posting content and things and getting on videos and stuff. And I know it doesn't come across that way, but there are times when I'm like doing a live on my Instagram and I'm like, man, I feel like an idiot doing this. I'm such a loser. That's how it kind of feels. So it's just the nature of the artistic introvert, insecure person that starts to manifest itself in some of those moments.
Well, thanks for sharing that, but you never ever have come off as a loser or that you
I know. See, you got to fake it sometimes. Like, you have to just kind of muster some courage and say, you know what, I'm going to go for this. I posted a couple videos last week on my Instagram stories, and my first couple shots, I watched them and I was like, man, I don't have any enthusiasm. There was no energy. So I completely reshot them and faked more enthusiasm and animation in my speaking. And it was so much better. So sometimes you have to fake it, even though you don't feel it necessarily.
So have you ever read Amy Cuddy's book? Oh Lord. I can't remember what it is. It's like a power pose or something. I can't remember what her book is called. I have it.
Amy Cuddy's.
She even talks about that. So you can manufacture the serotonin levels in your body by simply just putting, like, if you feel down, like you can do this.
Yeah. And it forces a smile.
Then the smile forces your body to give you that other feeling. There's also power poses. So if you felt bad, she calls it fake it till you become it instead of fake it till you make it. Because I do too. You'd love this book. She has a TED Talk if you want to just,
I just pulled her up and I see that. So I'm going to watch it.
But she does this thing. So there's, I know I've told the story before for them. So sorry, you guys, I'm just telling it again. I love this story that even people who have been blind their entire life, when they win a race, they put their arms up like this, right? And this is a symbol of, like, you're being the biggest, I don't know, the big gorillas do that, they make themselves the biggest. That is another thing about getting that serotonin level, or it puts down your cortisol. I think it's not serotonin. I don't know. I'm not great about my tonins.
Your brain tonins.
Right. Yeah. But it's really, it's a great way to kind of get that energy because they said that people who stood in a power pose, nobody saw them standing in it, but if they assumed a power pose, and that could be like the Wonder Woman, it could be just spreading your fingers out if you're in a meeting. Like, a lot of lawyers do that. If you watch Perry Mason, it's like they do that on the table or whatever. But that people came across if I was just a blind reviewer and I'm reviewing, the person who stood or was in a power pose comes across as being more confident and more that they're smarter, they're able to take the job on. And I think it is, sometimes you do have to, like, I know that I'm not ready to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it's like, you have kids, I'm sure that there are times where, like, I know you can do this. I don't know what one of your kids' names, I think
Max, Mason, and Miles.
Max. Let's just say Max. He went with the M's. That's good.
He did.
So, but like, you knew Max could do it. You knew he could jump off the diving board, or you knew he could make it across, but he didn't know. And so sometimes it's really important for us to be those cheerleaders for other people, for all of us, no matter who is. It could be a cheerleader. I think I was a cheerleader for my dad at one point when he had a stroke, and he just felt, like he wasn't worth anything. He couldn't do anything. And I was like, well, get on the lawnmower. You can do that. Now he, like, mows 15, 16 acres on a tractor, this is, sometimes people just need purpose, but you have to be able to see that other people can do it. Anyway, it goes back to the beaver, to be honest. Everything goes back to the beaver for me. I love the beaver. Talk about hope. Like, a beaver is, I don't know if you've ever seen this PBS documentary about the beavers. Have you seen it?
No.
It's on YouTube. I'll put it in the link below, but I'll send it to you. But the beavers they're meant for water, right? But they are such community driven. That's why I think designers are like beavers. And the mom beaver or dad beaver, they have like a apprentice beaver, right? You're an apprentice and you watch them, and they have these like little T-Rex arms, but they still can get a whole tree come down. And if if somebody comes and breaks up their dam, they're just like, oh, I hear the water. Let's they don't ever are like, oh my gosh, everything's going to pieces. They're just like, a hurricane. It was a earthquake, whatever. Hey, look, we get to build another dam today. And I think that I love that about the Be Better
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. I like it. Good. I like what you were talking about with power poses and things. And this is a big thing. Tony Robbins, especially in the early phase of his growth as a thought leader, was all about this, was all about the, the manifestation of your emotions, and doing the motion will make you feel the motion. So what comes first, the smile because you're happy, or you're happy because you're smiling? Which of those two things comes first? And it's the chicken and the egg mindset. And you can, based on research, you can force yourself to smile, and it does change what happens in your brain to actually start feeling happier. And so I think that there's a lot of that. The body language that we embrace can affect how we actually feel. So sometimes you have to get up in the morning and you feel scared and you feel unqualified, and you have to fake it, and you'll actually then start to become it, like you said. Amy Cuddy phrased it, and I love that. I'm gonna get her book. Thank you.
It's really good, and it's on Audible too. In case people like to listen. But there, for me, she talks about, and I've had kids do this, and Naomi said she stood in a power pose in a bathroom stall before walking into a proposal, because there are safe places. I mean, you don't want to be in the lobby before an interview, like standing like this. That would be weird. Like they're going to be like, tell her we're not available for the rest of the day, but I think there are safe places that you could do that. And I think it's really important for us, even especially in this time. Paul's saying it's timely advice. If you're feeling anxious about, anxiety is real, right? But stuff keeps flowing, and you have to be part of that flow. And you have to keep just stepping one step after another. My dad always says, you're only should be compared to who you were yesterday. And I think that's an Abraham Lincoln quote. But really, he's like, you can't compare yourself to anybody else. You can just improve on who you were yesterday, right?
Yeah. I did a post a few days ago or last week that I like the concept of comparing yourself to yesterday, but I like the concept of comparing yourself to 10 years ago or 20 years ago even better. I think a lot of times people compare themselves to yesterday and they're like, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. Oh, what's the point? But if you compare yourself to 10 years ago, you can easily see the changes and the improvements that you've made. So I think the point of that quote from Abraham Lincoln was, don't compare yourself to somebody else.
Right.
Compare you to you, and not to you and to you in the past. So compare yourself to you in the past, but I like a longer time horizon where you can see those changes much more clearly than you can in just the day to day.
We were talking about this before we went live, that really it's like, if you look at how you are, if you're worried about the economy and things like that, the economy's been good, and now we have no idea what it's going to be, but you have to just, harness that. Can you kind of share kind of what, like, because it's about having a joyful perspective, I think, and a positive perspective, because you are in charge of what happens to you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been through 2 economic downturns in my career. One was in 2002 when the markets tanked because the dot-com bubble burst and businesses went out of business, in 1 week. They were all built on this dot-com money, and then poof, they were gone. And then the other one was, and during that one, I started my agency. I was trying to get a job.
Right. That's
I couldn't get a job, and I started getting freelance work, and it became my agency. Now, I wish that I would have had that foresight back then, where I could have seen this moment hurts, but the outcome of this moment is going to force me into something so much better for my life. I wish I could have seen that, and I didn't. So instead, I spent my days scared, nervous, hoarding cash, afraid for the next project, all the fear and miserable feelings you can have as an entrepreneur. I felt those all for the first year of my business, but I didn't have any vision that this was going to become an agency and win awards and be sold and make me a lot of money. I didn't have any of that vision. I wish that I would have, because that's a better perspective than the fear perspective that I had. Then I went through it again in 2008. 2007, 2008, between January and October of 2008, I billed $1.5 million and I had 12 employees. Then October, it was like somebody turned the faucet off. All of a sudden, clients are cutting their budgets. All our clients are freaking out. They're missing meetings. Projects are getting pulled. It was like the sky was falling, and it was the housing market crash that caused the economic recession. And in 2009, I only billed $700,000. So it was less than half what I billed the year before. I had to cut my team to 6 people. I made a total profit of $17,000 in 2009. And this was after big profit in 2008. So I wish that I would have seen the opportunities that were happening then, because during that recession, I also bought a commercial office space that became our new studio. And I bought it for, cents on the dollar compared to what it was selling for in 2008. And
right.
That one asset is probably my biggest single economic asset that I own right now. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the slump was an opportunity. People are looking at the stock market and they're thinking, oh my gosh, the Dow Jones just went from 29,000 to 18,000 something right now today. Oh no, what am I going to do? Well, if Best Buy discounted all of their televisions by 33% for one day, people would be lining up outside to buy. Mm-hmm. And that's the opportunity. It's like there's an opportunity here in a slump for you to position yourself to emerge out of this bigger and better than you ever were before. It forces you to look at yourself. Where am I in my skill set? Oh, we're all quarantined around the world right now. Well, spend your time in Skillshare or on YouTube videos or work on pet projects on Photoshop. Get better, because when the market turns around, you're going to be in a much better position to capitalize on it. If you have money to invest, man, buy the stock market when everybody's panicking. That's the time to buy, not the time to sell, not the time to fear. So there's opportunity in the pain. That's what we have right now. And I think that perspective, I think, is so important to me. And I've seen it in the past, these moments when I was stupidly scared. I should have been opportunistic. And I am now. I mean, I've lost a lot of money in the last week and a half or 2 weeks in the stock market. But I go to bed at night. I don't even look at my total valuation anymore. I'm like, oh, well, it's
because you know it will come back.
I know it will come back. We will be laughing at 18,000 Dow Jones in 10 years when the Dow is at 40,000. Everybody's going to be sitting there thinking, I should have bought. Why did I sell my whole portfolio when I should have been buying during that time? But it's so hard because our psychology is the news. Coronavirus is going to destroy the world. The stock market is terrible. The President Trump is the worst president ever. I mean, you see everything that is like the media trying to convince you to not have confidence in anything right now. But look for opportunities in the madness and invest in yourself to emerge out of this a bigger and better person than what you are today.
And another great thing we can do is reach out to our customers. So a lot of people, so they're trying to figure out how to do other things. How can they still, if they have a yoga studio, hey, you know what? There's this thing called Zoom. Those people probably are not on Zoom. They have no idea what this is, but y'all know how to use it. So anybody can get a 40-minute free, but like that's one thing I'm doing for some of my professor friends. I'm just going to make some extra videos. I talked to somebody this morning and I'm just taking them through, like you can still have a 50-person class, but you can use the breakout rooms. There's other things like, and the guy who I talked to, he was like, well, I guess I'll just record them. And I was like, I'm not recording my classes. They got to come just like every other day. If they don't come, because then they'll be like, oh, you know what? I'll just do it this weekend. And then the weekend never comes. So it's still really important that you can come together and that people can, we can talk about anything that's happening. I think it's also important that we still are meeting, like I think that's, the best part. We have the internet, we have, hopefully we have things that are, that we're providing, but maybe there's something else that's something that's really put on people's heart. Like I know there's a lot of kids who go to school and they have 2 meals provided per day, right? So maybe there's something that, if that's heavy on your heart, then you start something. Or we can make websites, like people, we can make these things and we can bring things together and we can start things. We don't even have to leave our house to do this. All we have to have is, we are beavers. We can make the change. We can make we can dam up the pool so that we can all have water and a place to live. So we just need to be able to reach out to people. We still have all these tools right at our disposal. And I think for us being visionary, like I think that, I think it's hard when you're younger and you haven't lived through something like this. It's like you're saying, well, I was just going to freelance, and then it turned into me having my own firm. Well, because you did that, now you knew how. And the whole reason we were talking was about pivoting, and you had to pivot. You were like, okay, I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to be at a job at an awesome place. And then you got a job at the coffee shop, right? And then, but you said, hey, I am not going to stay at the coffee shop. You did not let that define you. And I think that that's the other thing. This does not define us. How can there's something in all of this, no matter what, if it was the housing market again, if it was whatever, how are you going to use this to help other people? And I think that's what you've done with everything you've learned. You're always like taking it in and sharing it back out. Hey, this is what I learned. This is how you could use it. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to share kind of those insights. So why has that not been? Have you been writing more at this point? Because you always said you wrote when you like go on vacation. I was because it feels sort of like a vacation sometimes because you're like at your house. But
Instagram content is like consumes me, and I'm making a huge course for freelancers, and that's what I'm working on in my non-coaching hours. So that's what's consuming my time. But the thing relating to writing, one of the things that I did in 2008. And I'm a believer in this. I believe that we live in this world and we go through experiences because we're supposed to learn from them and grow and improve. One of the things in my book, Burn Your Portfolio, I have the chapter called Two Types of Grandpas. One is the old grumpy grandpa who sits in his rocking chair on the front porch and yells at the neighbor kids for stepping on his lawn. The other type of grandpa is the sage, wise grandpa who all the grandkids and great grandkids just want to spend time with grandpa because he has the answer to all their problems. Now, these two grandpas lived the same amount of time. They went through the same things. They went through World War II and the Great Depression and who knows what else they've lived through depending on their age. And the Vietnam War and the Carter era presidency and economic turmoil in 1987 and 2002 and 2008. And they've been through all that. And they've come out of it in two different ways. One is the crotchety old grandpa who blames the world for all of his misfortunes. And the other one is the wise grandpa. And each of us is either becoming this grandpa or grandma. This is the metaphor. But it depends, what we become, one of those two types of grandpas, depends on how we go through these challenges in our lives. If we go through them looking around saying, oh, Donald Trump is to blame for the coronavirus outbreak and he should have sent everybody home. Well, he didn't invent that. I'm not defending Trump. I'm just saying he didn't invent the coronavirus. This is something that's been inflicted on the whole world. We're all going through this. So the alternative perspective is to say, what can I learn from being quarantined in my house for the next 2 weeks to 4 months what can I learn from that experience? Because I will probably never go through that again in my life. You and I, we will probably never see this ever again. It's been forever. This has never happened where the world has shut down this way. Even going back to like the era of the Spanish flu, that just the media didn't transition the message to the world in a way that made the world shut down. So we're probably never going to see this again. So the question is, which grandpa or grandma are you becoming? And a lot of that is determined by how you go through these different challenges in your life. Now, 2008, I took this mindset, and maybe it was the early 2009, but I was like, you know what? If I'm supposed to learn something from having my billings cut in half, laying off half my team, losing half of my money in the stock market, if I'm supposed to learn something from that, I better freaking write it down, because I don't want to go through this again. I don't want this trial to come to me again. So I'm going to learn what I'm supposed to learn so I don't have to endure this again. And I opened up my journal, which I'm not a huge journal writer, but I started writing down every lesson that I was learning from these experiences. And I just started writing because I thought, you know what, there's no better proof to me that I've learned my lesson than me articulating it in a way that I write it down. And it changes my perspective. Like I'm sitting here now, having lost a lot of money and being quarantined in my house, and the whole world is in panic and uproar. And I'm not unhappy. I'm content. I love what I do. I love to get up in the morning. I love having my kids around a little bit more, as long as they don't get too stir crazy. And but I'm better in this experience today because I went through it before and I learned from it during that time.
And that is super important, but it's also about being able to be introspective and taking time to be introspective.
Yeah.
So maybe this is something that we all have. We're all given this gift of this time. And I know some people are like, time, I don't have any extra time. Now I got to like juggle kids and but then there will never be another time that your kids are home like this, you know? So this will be a senior year for some people, or a junior year, or a fifth grade year, or whatever year that they will never forget, because it's like, you and I are about the same age. So you remember when the space shuttle blew up, right?
I remember I was sitting in middle school watching it on television like everybody else. It was crazy.
So we had a snow day in Atlanta, and I remember where I was sitting on we got a fireplace, and I was sitting on the hearth, and I was looking at the TV. And our TVs were small. They were nothing like what we have now. And I remember when September 11th, and somebody on the news was saying, oh, this is worse than September 11th. And I'm like, okay, I think the media is I don't even have the TV on. Sometimes my mom will say, well, did you see the news today? And I'm like, no. But I'm not saying anything bad, but I do think they're trying to have stuff to put on the TV, and they like to drama, like that's a TV show right there. So it's funny, but I think we can use this. I remember when we first we were able to do stuff like this on like with Skype but even with doing larger things, like I was part of this platform called Spreecast, and I remember, oh my goodness, we can come together from people all over. And look, like we got Jacob in Slovakia today. We got Michael Fonville in Texas. We got Patricia in Portland, she's in Washington, but she's right on the border. Demi is in London. I mean, we got people from all over, and we're coming together, and we're still trying to grow and learn. And I think that is a great perspective. So you have to just remind people who are around, remind our clients that we're here, and there will be another day. It is not tomorrow. It may not be tomorrow, but it might be, so what can we do? How can we adjust so that, and Naomi said this, I think, or somebody said it, that they can be on top when they get back. I think that's really an important part of us just having the perspective. So going back to that time in when you were first starting Riser, and you didn't have a vision. So I think
Yeah,
that that's a really hard thing, especially for
it
being
is.
young. I think it's hard to kind of think about that. And you are kind of in that fear mindset. A lot of
Mhm.
people live like that for a long time.
Yeah.
So when did you get in that, was it with books you were reading, or was it just, what happened that you started thinking about the future and planning things, or having more of a future mindset and looking at the opportunities in a down slump instead of just woe, gloom and doom?
It was all fear-based for the first few years. Even my first couple hires were like
Mm,
a response to my fear. It was a new fear. I had too much work. I was working crazy hours. I had a new fear that I had to invest against. And that was the fear of not getting the work done for my clients. But it was never a proactive approach in the early days of, I'm investing in the future of my business here. And so I'm going to hire these key employees to fulfill the needs that I have because I'm growing a business. It was always, oh crap, I greenlit more work. I got to get it done. I got to get some people or my clients are going to be mad at me. And then if
mm,
they're mad at me, they're not going to give me more work. And then if I don't get more work, I'm not going to be able to feed my kids. This is the trickle, the fear trickle that
mm-hmm.
happens. So it was about maybe 3-4 employees in where it was kind of, it all happened in about a month's worth of time. And I don't remember the exact timing, but it was kind of this mindset of, I now had a little leased office space and I had 3 or 4 employees. And I remember kind of thinking, man, this isn't going away. I'm getting more work than I've ever had. I have busy employees now. Maybe I got to start looking at what is it that I can accomplish here and not how am I going to solve the fear in my life? And so that it's just a paradigm shift. And I think we all can force ourselves to do that, especially now where fear is the mantra in a slumping economy and a global outbreak. Fear is what people are feeling. But if you kind of tweak the dial a little bit and say, what are my opportunities here? I went on this riff already, but what are my opportunities here? I can tell you opportunity number one is if you're self-employed or freelancing, stay in business because not everybody is going to stay in business and the competitive landscape is going to be smaller in a year than it is today because some people are going to fail and they're going to go get jobs and now there are less competitors for you. That's one of the things that happened in 2008, 2009, a lot of agencies started to go out of business. 2002, same thing. Some of these big agencies like March 1st, and they were a big known agency in LA, and they had all .com clients, and the .com market tanks, and they lose all their clients, and they go out of business, and it was just that fast. It seemed like, in a matter of weeks, they were done. That provides opportunity for you. So I think it's just tweak the dial and say, okay, what are my opportunities here to capitalize on a fear market when everybody else is panicking? How can I capitalize on that? And I don't recommend buying 18,000 bottles of hand sanitizer like the guys in Tennessee did. That's not my recommendation on how to capitalize on it, but invest in yourself and look for opportunities for the future of your business, not just reacting to the fear that's happening right now.
Okay, I love that. And I also, I'm with you on it's been a little crazy, like going to the grocery store or something,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
like, my mom, she was here, now she's not here. But anyway, she and my dad were like going out to eat. I'm like, look, you're 77. You need to
Yeah.
stay
You're in
inside,
the
right?
risk quadrant. Yeah.
And I was like, she's like, and I know my dad, he's like, I'm bored here, like, thank
Yeah.
goodness they have internet, but oh, she's back. Can't talk about her anymore.
Okay.
Their internet is a little flaky, but we weren't saying anything bad, Mom, just so you know. But I think that has to do with everybody else. You don't really think. It seems unreal, but maybe we just take this and we are very empathetic to the other people that are out there.
Yes.
And we really start taking this as, okay, maybe you're fine, maybe I'm fine, but you never know if somebody else who just had to go to the grocery store isn't
Yeah.
fine, and you could be
Yeah.
a carrier, or who knows, just sometimes it's good to just, we don't know everything. Let's just try to do what they're telling us to do. And,
Yeah.
sometimes just following the rules can be a really great thing for maybe that old grumpy grandpa,
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So go
Well,
ahead.
let me let one last thing on this. I believe you're better off getting your information from the CDC website than you are from MSNBC or Fox News or any media outlet that is giving you opinion, assumption of information, not the raw information from the CDC. So I just am skipping every headline about the coronavirus, and I'm going to the CDC.com website and getting it from the Center for Disease Control, because I figure I can make my own interpretation of what my panic level should be, not let the media decide what my panic level should be.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people, it's really a ton of pollen out for us. I don't know if it's that y'all still maybe are in the end of winter, right? But
Yeah.
it's warm. I mean, I'm in shorts. I've been in shorts all week. It's
Yeah.
in the 80s and there's tons of pollen. So maybe
Yeah.
the reason I have a headache is because there's so much pollen, not
Might be.
because
Not because you have
because I went to the
coronavirus.
grocery store, right? Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I also love about you is just that you have a willingness to share and a willingness to kind of, if you look at back from not being able to find a job and going to the copy shop, but then being at the copy shop, being the best employee, learning as much as you possibly could at the copy shop.
Yeah.
Copy shop.
Yeah.
Did I
That's
say
good.
that right? Anyway, and then you had a job, you did that, and you were trying to find another job, and then it didn't work out. You started Riser, and then I know why you were getting so much work at that point, because you were doing the job of getting work. That was, and you had other people doing this other stuff. So no wonder, like, it just kept coming in because of that. And then I think it's in those times. So in those pivot places, you've been able to reflect and be able to see, but you've also had faith in yourself that you would be able to do work and that you weren't going to let anybody down. I think that's the other thing is something I really admire about you, that you would always put your clients first. You put the people who you're coaching first. I mean, and your family first. There is a mindset that other people are really important, and the other people in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're just saying a quick something, or you're putting an Instagram post, or you're responding to somebody in email, that people have always been important. And I think sometimes at this point, a lot of people can kind of vacuum in and just be really, we are, on quarantine, but it doesn't mean that we can't connect with these amazing platforms. So what is your coaching calendar been like? Because it seems like a lot of people would be in that fear, like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So
I've started hearing the panic response of, oh no, my clients are saying that they're putting this project on hold, or oh no, my clients are talking about cutting their budgets and things like that. And the trickle down is inevitably going to happen. I go to 2008, and I'll give you this example. Chevrolet owned Pontiac and Saturn brands. And in order to reduce costs, I assume that's what the intention was. In order to reduce costs, they discontinued those brands completely. They shut down Pontiac. They shut down Saturn. And both of those were selling a lot of cars. I mean, Pontiac goes back 100 years in the car world, and they just closed that brand completely. So now there are no ads for Pontiac. And now the agency that had the Pontiac account does not get work. And now the freelancers who used to work for that agency outsourced don't get work. And now those freelancers make less money, and so they don't go out to eat as often. And now the restaurant makes less money and the restaurant has to close the store. I mean, there's this trickle down that happens. And this is why the stock market is tanking right now, because investors know that this shutdown is going to have repercussions for the next year or two. And so, going back to, as I started talking about that, what was the original question on this, what have I been hearing on coaching sessions? That's, I think, the overall fear is, how is this going to affect me and my business? So my first advice is cut every unnecessary expense. Go and look, and if you're not using your Skillshare account very often, then turn it off. Stop spending the monthly fee on it. Start cutting costs because you need to stay in business as long as possible, because things will turn around, and they can turn around fast. I mean, we might find that 6 months from now there's a coronavirus vaccine, and all of a sudden everybody stops panicking about that and the stock market starts taking off. So start looking at your expenses and cut those expenses first. Reduce your lifestyle to be able to live on less money. I'm making a post about this, but when we're fearful, don't look long-term, look short-term. And the shorter term you look, the less fearful you'll be. So if you look at it and say, oh no, I'm panicking, what if my business fails? Well, do you have money in the bank right this second? Do you have food in your cabinet right this second? Don't look 6 months down the road and start panicking that your business is going to fail, because you have no idea what is going to happen 6 months down the road. So shorten the timeline. Live hour by hour if that's what you have to do, or live day by day. And I can look at, like I said, my stock accounts have been hammered and stuff, but I'm still fine, and I'll be fine for a long time. So I'm not going to panic right now, because it's long-term perspective. Now, when we're hopeful, look long-term. Look at that and say, oh, I'm going to go and accomplish this. I'm going to accomplish my dreams. I'm going to climb that mountain. I'm going to start this agency, and start dreaming about good things long-term. But when you're fearful, look short-term and stop thinking long-term.
That's great advice. I do love that the visualization that you're doing is that you make the goal, not that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get tripped all the way to the goal, right?
Yeah.
Because if that happens, they say when you're mountain biking, I used to mountain bike. I like to do it down. I don't like to go up, but they say if you look where your bike's going to go, if you look at a tree, you will fall, you will run into the tree. If you look at that rock, you will go right on that rock. And then, but it's like, you have to keep looking and changing that perspective to be where you want to go. And I think that is where, if you're really fearful, they talk about that fear and excitement are the same chemical reaction in your body. And the only difference is that you breathe through one of them, and the one you hold your breath. And I just, just for y'all, we just all need to breathe, especially when we start panicking. And I think that's where we need to come in to community and come together and at least talk about it. I think that those things are super important. So,
yes.
All right. So we're going to pivot a little bit in our thing, and we're going to talk about. We haven't
talked about anything that was on the original list yet.
Well, I do talk about the people at the beginning of the journey. So I love that you answered that question. What do you think? So I also think this kind of goes into pivoting. So when you're on Instagram and you, because I think that there's always going to be pivots. Like you've talked about how you've pivoted in multiple places in your life, but when you, is it a gut thing because you've done it enough to get that gut reaction and you know what's going to perform well? Or is it something that, and how do you measure your success? Because, if you put something out at midnight, it might not be a good time to put it out, but it might have been great content, right?
Yeah. I did that a couple Saturdays ago. I decided to post a post on a Saturday, because I was like, you know what, I haven't posted on a Saturday for a while, and I completely wasted a good post on a Saturday because it performed 50% of what it would have done during a weekday. And so I kicked myself for that, and I learned my lesson. But this is after almost a year of nearly daily posting, and I still made a mistake that I knew in my gut was the wrong decision, but I did it anyway. So I think, we build intuition over time by making good decisions and bad decisions. I took to heart the mindset, and that's what became Burn Your Portfolio book, was writing down what I'm learning from all of these good decisions and bad decisions. If I want to replicate the good, I need to understand the lesson and create a system to replicate the good, from mindset to action checklist. And if I want to avoid the bad, I need to know what the lesson was, what the experience was, and then I need to create the new mindset and a new checklist so that I never have that bad thing happen again. And I think that that's good advice for anybody going through their career. It's how you build your gut instinct. It's how you build your intuition. It's not just that you wake up one day and you have better business sense than the next person, and that's why you're successful. No, the people who have good business sense have been through it. They've learned from all their previous experiences, and now they know where to pivot and tweak the dials because they took the time to do that introspection and learn the lesson that they needed to learn from each of the experiences, good and bad. And like I said at the start, that's what became my whole first book, was exactly that. If you read through that book, it's like, okay, this is what sucked in my life, and here's what I did about it. And here, this chapter is, look at what I did, and look how great this turned out, and here's how you can do that. So, I mean, the whole book to me is that. It's the lesson from each of these experiences. So the advice to everybody listening is open up your journal and start writing down your lessons that you're learning from your own experiences, whether they're in the middle of economic freak out and coronavirus or just normal life. You want to replicate the good and avoid the bad in the future. And that's how you'll build that intuition.
And I think it's showing up every day, right? It's trying something else. Like, even though after a year you were like, I'm going to try this Saturday thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it reached some people that were on that Saturday that it really needed to reach, right?
I love that perspective. Good.
But I think that it's about getting out there and trying things all the time. It's not just posting once a month. It's being present in the tool, right? It's not like, you know what, I know how to use a hammer. Well, I'm going to use it once a year and I'm going to be a master at a hammer. You are out there and you're putting stuff out there and you're trying things that some will not go as others. So how are you determining what is a successful post?
Oh, for Instagram, what's a successful post? For me,
for you,
For me, it is the quantity of comments, I think, because I'm a people person. And so I want that interaction, and the comments are more valuable to me than quantity of likes or even the quantity of shares. I've never been, I don't get caught up in the numeric growth of my account. I celebrate it as it grows and I get excited, and it's motivating to me because I'm self-competitive. So I want to keep seeing it grow because it's a metric, but that hasn't been my focus. My focus has been building relationships with people like you and the 1,000 other people that I've become friends with in the past year, that I wake up in the morning and I'm so excited to see a DM from them or an email or a text message or whatever. I just love that so much. And the comments is where those kinds of things start. It's so for me, that's the metric. If I can post something that resonates enough for somebody to take the time to write a message, that's the part that I love the most.
So Jose says consistency has been his Achilles heel. So how did you become able to be so consistent at anything? So it doesn't matter if it was working out or having dinner with your wife, or like, what was it? Is it always been like, is consistency something that has been easy for you, or has that been something that you've had to embrace?
I would thrive in the military. I'm like born that way. It's like, let's get up at 6 a.m. and drop and give 50 push-ups. And if I decide that that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. So I'm just built that way. So I honestly, I don't really have advice for people who aren't built that way because it's so entrenched in me. And once I embrace that about myself, it's hard to turn it off. And if you ask my wife what my biggest failing would be, it would be that. It's my greatest attribute and my greatest failing as well. So for me, where it comes from, I think mentally is once I commit to something, I'm all in, I'm not stopping. So if I'm going to reply to every DM on Instagram, which I've done for almost a year now, I started April 1st last year, I've been replying to every DM, and I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of DMs, thousands of DMs every week, and I'm replying to every single one. People send me their work, and they're like, "What do you think of this?" And I reply back and say, "It looks great." You know, I try and be that cheerleader like you do, Diane, for creatives. It looks great. Keep going. You know, I reply to those things, but it's because I made the decision that I'm going to reply to every DM, so I'm in it. Once I make the decision to not do that, then I can turn it off because now I'm committed to the non-decision. I'll give you another example. I started in Christmas of 2018, I got an Apple Watch for the first time, and the Apple Watch is not healthy for me. The little exercise app that gives you a little badge every day that you hit your calorie number or your move number. I hit that thing for like 46 days in a row or something. It's like Sunday nights, I'm 200 calories down. So I'm doing jumping jacks in my basement. You know, it's just that it was so extreme. It's so extreme that I had to just say, you know what, I'm not going to put on the Apple Watch today because I can't do this anymore. It's not healthy for my life. But that's the way that I am. So a lot of it comes from just self-competitive nature and from once I make a decision, I'm all in and I'm going for it.
Okay. So now I have another question.
Okay.
Two actually. So, and just to get Jose, he's like, it's not a lack of discipline or lack of commitment. It's that it's prioritizing client work and other stuff. So I would say, my thing to Jose would say, you have to prioritize. This goes back to Demi. So you and Demi need to be friends. Demi, you need to give him your email address or something. But Demi talks about he was total chaos before he got in the military because he's Greek and they have to spend a year in the military. He loved it. It was a savior for him. And then, but he has a thing about revenue tomorrow, and he spends at least 2 hours a day doing revenue tomorrow. So Jose, you and Demi need to talk. But what would you say to him about prioritizing that he's not prioritizing his business?
So I would say every day you should do something that relates to sales. And sometimes that is Instagram. Sometimes it's emailing your current clients. Sometimes it's emailing a past client. Sometimes it's reaching out to somebody new that you just met and inviting them to lunch. But it's some kind of action every day that relates to sales. Now, Instagram is a marketing channel that relates to sales in your business. You don't have to do it. You can do something else that relates to sales that maybe takes less time. Don't chase Instagram and growing on Instagram just because you want the vanity metric. And I'm not saying that it's a vanity related thing, but it feels good to have a lot of followers. But most of the people who follow designers are other designers, which works well for me because that's my platform. But if you're a designer trying to get clients, most of the people who follow you are not going to be clients. It's a low yield sales activity compared to reaching out to past clients and keeping those relationships up and taking an existing client to lunch so that they give you the next project. That's high yield sales activities. Instagram is low yield sales activities. So don't punish yourself mentally for not being consistent on Instagram. Especially if you have work, the whole point of posting for you as a designer is to generate clients. But if you have work, then don't try and beat yourself up for not posting on Instagram to generate more clients. There'll come a time. I think it's just seasons for everything. When I had my agency going, we had no social media presence. I mean, it was the landscaper's lawn. The landscaper's lawn is full of weeds and it's never mowed. But everybody who is their client has a perfectly manicured lawn. And as designers, we're in the same situation like that. A lot of times it's our own marketing that suffers. Don't compare yourself to people like me who can spend a lot more time doing it either. And this is something that I've mentioned a few times, but my growth hack on Instagram is that I don't do client work. I'm not spending 6 hours or 8 hours a day cranking out client work. I'm spending my time working with creatives in coaching, preparing lectures and courses and writing books, all for creatives to help them level up. And then a lot of that becomes Instagram content as well. So this is my job. Instagram fits right into the sweet spot of what my whole purpose is in my career right now. But to the people who are beating themselves up for not being consistent on Instagram, there will be a time and a place for it sometime in the future. And there will always be social media from now until the end of time. It's changed the world for the better in most sense. And there will always be a time for it in the future.
Okay. So I know we're almost out of time and I'd want to be conscious of that. So why is commitment so important to you? This was not on the sheet, but it goes with what you just, because you were like, I'm committing to this, I'm going. So my big thing is that once I commit to something, I almost never cannot then commit. Like, I feel like it's like a marriage, it's like, oh, well, I'm in it. Like you said, well, then I might commit to saying I'm going to stop doing this.
Yeah.
And maybe that was where it was like when you decided to sell Riser, because that was like, it's a big break. It's a different change in your life, but you realize that there was something else and it was a clear direction for what your next direction was. Mm-hmm. But do you ever feel, because you're so relational, do you ever feel guilty when you think about quitting the relationships of answering the DMs every day?
Oh yeah. I feel bad even thinking about it, but there will come a day when I can't do it anymore, when I just can't get to all of them. And I'm almost there now. I mean, it's a lot of correspondence, but I'm not there yet. I don't know. I keep hoping for better tools so that I can do it faster. I voice dictate a lot of them, so that not leaving a voice message, but letting Siri dictate my voice into text. And so I do things to speed it up. But yeah, the commitment thing, I don't really recall what the question clearly was, but that's just so much how I'm built. Mm. And it's a curse as much as it is a blessing. I wake up in the morning and I'm in the hamster wheel and I'm going and I'm running as fast as I can all day. And it's really, really hard for me to turn it off.
It is life. Me too. I think I asked that in a selfish way, because
you're on 300 something episodes of
335 today.
Yes. So exactly. This is case in point. You started your podcast and now you're 300. Hardly anybody gets to 300 something episodes on a podcast. And so it just is a testament that you are built this way too.
Like, I think that I couldn't. So Chris Doe, he said to me, he's like, well, Diane, you got enough content. Why don't you just work on like repurposing that? Like, don't make anymore. And I was like, because Amy shows up every week. I got to come for Amy, I mean, thankfully Amy has Amy Lyons in Raleigh. She's been coming like it'll be 8 years in June. But it's like, I know these people. Like Jose's a new friend this week, but like, everybody in this chat over here, I know Paul and I haven't met on the computer yet, but we've talked on LinkedIn, and it's like, I feel like, and that I think is except Galaxy S10 Plus. I don't know who you are, right? But I think some of the greatest part is memory. You know, I have a good memory, and but I want people to know that they're seen. But I also couldn't let them down. Like I remember my aunt asked me one time, I was at my parents' and I was like, well, I got to get back because I got to go to the library and do this thing. And she's like, who's making you do this?
Yeah.
And I had made a 5-year commitment. And this was like year 3. And I remember that she said that in a way like she thought my boss was making me do it or something. And I was like, no, I made a commitment to myself, you know, to show up. And I think it's important for us to do that with our clients. I think that when we stop showing up, when we stop being there is when we fall off of their radar, you know, and I think, you know, this has been a rough week for a lot of my clients. And I mean, I got cussed out on one day, and it wasn't that I had done anything wrong. I just happened to walk up at the wrong time, not physically walk up because, right?
Recipient of all of their stress.
Right. Yeah. And I can take it. I'm
but
okay.
Doesn't it hurt you because you're a good-hearted person and you're like, I only want the best for you. Why are you hating on me? This is does it hurt?
So it makes me think, is it time to break that that relationship? So my clients, much like yours, I think they become my friends, you know. These are people. And then a lot of times, you know, some clients are really business oriented and then some are not. And the ones who are, like, I don't want to not be friends with them because it's like somebody I can geek out about business with, you know, because not everybody walking around is like us, you know, the people in the chat that we are willing to give up an hour each week and talk about business and design and stuff, right? Like my mom, she's like, I don't even know what the stuff you're talking about is, but she comes, you know. And the reason she comes, I think, is because my dad was like, well, Diane, does your boss watch? And I was like, no. And he said, well, don't you think he should? And I was like, have you ever watched? And he's like, oh, I'm going to get your mom to watch next week, you know. So he may be watching today, but maybe. But he may be Galaxy. No, I'm just kidding. I know my dad doesn't have a Galaxy phone. He has a flip phone, people. But I think that it's one of those things that but I think it's just important that we're together and people have, and there's so much about in our business is that we're just present. You said, hey, you know what? Just keep doing business because it's a marathon. It is not a sprint. I see so many people start podcasts, right? And especially when you're starting it with somebody else, like I think with Tom and the Honest Designers, that's something he's done with, and it's hard. He has 4 people he has committed to, you know, each week. I mean, those are all 4 amazing people, but now y'all have the Biz Buzz podcast. I've been listening. I love it, but it's a commitment now between you and Tom that you're going to come together and you're going to do this. Who knows? But it is hard when you have to commit. You have to, now Tom's super committed, right? And you're super committed, but it's hard to find somebody who's that committed to this as you are, right? That's a whole nother podcast episode, is finding somebody who's as committed to you, right? But I think I don't understand why we're committed, like why we have that gene in us. I don't know what it is.
But I'm going to work on trying to crack that nut into some kind of, and maybe you could work on it too, not to give you an assignment, but
I will.
Let's both work on it for the next 6 or 8 months and then do a conversation like this on how do we try and help people replicate that if they don't have that gene. Because I've never seen content on here's how you can up your level of commitment or consistency or discipline. I don't know where that content is. I've never read anything about it, but that is a nut that could have massive value to a lot of people. I feel like it's built into me. You do too. How do we crack that nut? I think could be a really, really interesting conversation.
All right. I'll work on it. So one thing on the other side, Chris said to me, he was like, well, Diane, because I remember when the first guy I ever got into podcasting, listening to podcasts. And I remember when he stopped making it, and I was so I was hurt. And I think that's why I think about it. Like, I'm making a commitment to these people to come every Wednesday. I remember how hurt I was because I needed the information, and it was just,
Yeah.
it was easy, right? And he had a great personality. He's still alive. It's not like he died. If he had died, I wouldn't have given him a hard time, right? Like, how
Sure.
could he die?
Some slack. Yeah.
Right. But I think I didn't think about it like that. And Chris was like, wow, Diane, that's a lot of pressure you're putting on someone. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. But I
Yeah.
guess it's the pressure I put on myself because the people are so important. And I think you are the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it is. It's what drives me. I honestly, I sit here, we've been talking for an hour and I'm like, oh man, I got a bunch of DMs that I got to get back to. How many are good? How many are going to be there? Who needs me? I want to be there for them because nobody was there for me. That's the kind of thing that
Yeah.
drives me. It emotionally drives me to keep going. And I hope it doesn't go away. That's the thing. I mean, I hope that for me, because this is such an enjoyable part of my career, and I really feel like I found my why in life, and I'm doing it right now, and I'm only a year into it, and I hope that I can just do this run for the next 20 years and just output so much content to help so many creatives, and that I can leave a legacy for my kids as a result of that. That's what I'm hoping happens for me, and that motivates me to keep going as well, because I feel like this is just so spot on. I finally, after a 20-something year career, figured out what really makes me tick.
But had you not had that successful and challenging 20-year career, you wouldn't have the same insight
I
that you
would have
have.
nothing to share. I could not have gotten on here and said, hey, well, when I was in the 2002 recession and the 2008, and here's what I learned, and I wrote in my journal. I had all these experiences that I didn't know would become content that maybe can help somebody else in the future. I was just going through it. Now I see my life as everything is a lesson to be learned. Going through every single day, there's you kind of start walking around looking for metaphors. You're like, it's snowing today and there's a creek right there. What can I learn from the current in the creek, and how do I turn that into a piece of content? You start kind of looking at the world in a different way, and I think it's a healthier way. You start looking at the real things you're supposed to learn and how you can progress in your life, looking at life that way.
So Doc has four girls. It's four, right, Doc? You have four, because it's after three. It's like, what? Right?
Yeah.
But he has four little girls. And I think about anybody who's a parent, like if they're struggling to do a side thing and to pay all the bills with your day job, I think you need to write that stuff down. And I also tell, like, when in college, kids get pregnant. Well, not kids. I mean, girls,
They're kids
women.
to us,
Right.
I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they get pregnant, and I'm like, you know what? Somebody else is going to be as awful as you feel. You need to write some of this stuff down, because you are going to be able to help somebody else. Somebody else is going to be able to get through this because you have gone through it before, and you're going to be able to help somebody out of that hole. And I think no matter what it is, if we don't accept the hole that we're in and that we're trying to get out. But I think one of the things that you've done that we all need to do is write down what lessons we're learning and be introspective and kind of be able to analyze instead of just pity party what's going on. We need to be able to write down. I think that's something we all could do, because there's something that we all can. I also don't think it has to do, and I think you believe this as well, it doesn't have to do with the number of people that you reach. It's that you helped one person or 50 people on that one Saturday. It's like you just listened to your gut and you tried it, and now you're like, hey, that wasn't a great business decision, but maybe it helped somebody, right? And it's just that, and it may not be that all of us have this huge following, but maybe it's just the people. If you think about 100 people, 100 people in a room is a lot of people. I mean, that's you couldn't get together right now, right?
It's against the law to group.
But I think Paul says great. So do a success journal. So maybe we could all start that during this time, and then we can look back in a year at the success journal and see what we've learned. And maybe that's stuff that you can, maybe there's segments of, like with Doc, he could do it as a journal about raising 4 girls, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and all the struggles that come with being an artist and all the things that are challenging. And he may reach people who aren't even artists, right? He may just reach dads, right?
Yes.
And I
Yep.
think that it's our lives are all these things. And I used to think, oh, because I'm not a mom, that I always wanted to be a mom, but it wasn't in the cards. And so, but
Yeah.
now I look at it and like, I have 60 kids every year, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
So it's
Hundreds or thousands of kids over the course of your career that look at you as one of those people in their lives, one of their mentors, the sage who helped them through this phase of their life. And I've seen that, I know Sarah who's
mhm.
watching, but I know that, the way she talked about you in her post, uh, that's some heartfelt stuff, that the way that she perceives you. And so you've touched a lot of lives, and that has so much value. If you only did it for that one person, it's worth it. That's the thing
Right.
we have to remember when we're looking at building a social media following. Yes, the vanity numbers of the big audience are great, but man, if you can find those couple people that really, really resonate with you, that you really became close with and helped through their challenging time, and you build this bond, man, that has all the value in the world.
I agree. All right. So I'm going to share ways that people can. So Sarah asked earlier, when does the freelance course come out? When can we
I am
expect it?
working on it so hard, but it's probably a couple more months until
Okay.
it's done. It is massive. Like this is Mike Janda fashion. Once I start, I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be the greatest freelancer course that's ever been created. So that's my commitment. I'm all in on that, and I just
So
keep adding more content to it.
how can we find out more about it? Is there
Uh,
something on michaeljanda.com
There
about
will
it?
be. There's nothing yet. You can just follow me on Instagram. That's where I post the most. And I don't market my stuff very often, but this is going to have so much value that I'm going to market this a lot. So I'm going to have a lot of mentions in my stories and in my feed about this course, because so many people need it. It's sales. How can you sell? How can you find clients? Here's all your contracts for every type of project. Here's all your pitch decks for every type of project. Here's your structure for production and production strategies so that you can execute on these things. Here's your delivery documents. I mean, it's going to be very, very turnkey business in a course, so that you can hopefully replicate or exceed the success I've had in my career. I had to figure out all this stuff as I went along through trial and error, and this is going to be a toolbox for you. So I'm
I
super
love
excited.
that. Can't wait to hear more. And just for anybody who's listening, you can follow him at More Janda, MoreJanda. All right. And then there's 2 books. You guys should get it, even if you're not like in school or anything like that. I actually think the portfolio book has a ton of rich content that isn't necessarily just portfolio
Yeah.
based, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can, those 2 links are there. They will be underneath if you're watching on YouTube, and they will also be underneath if you're on wherever you're getting your podcast. So it's Burn Your Portfolio and The Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing, which is incredible. And you do really like yellow and black, and he's
I'm
consistent on
all
these.
in. I'm all in on yellow and
All
black.
in.
Once I
For
committed, that was my
all right, Mike, thanks so much. I
so
I can't
fun.
wait to figure out why we're so committed.
I
Do
can't
you
either.
do you think you have a good memory?
Oh, yeah, I have a good memory. I remember people. I remember names.
I
I
think they're
remember these
connected then.
experiences.
I think
You do? Okay,
maybe.
that's
Well, I
part of
think
your
we're
nut crack.
that's part of my, well, I'll have to
Yeah.
dig in. I'm going to get my, what did we call it? Somebody called it, Paul, you called it a
Success journal.
success journal. All
Yes.
right, Paul, I'm getting my success journal out. And hey, that's another thing you could sell. You could sell these journals, or whatever.
Me or
Yeah,
Paul?
you or Paul.
Oh.
Paul could sell them.
I like Moleskines. Get the Moleskines. The little ones are my favorite. The little ones that you can just kind of take everywhere you go. Those are my favorite.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All
Oh,
right. Well, so fun.
just so everybody knows, it is always fun to talk to you, Mike. Just so everybody knows, you will again hopefully be back in Pensacola at Design XL. That's like
Yes. November.
November.
Beginning of November. Mm-hmm.
That should be, everything should be fine, people.
Yes, it will be
And
fun.
And then also tomorrow we're going to do one more design recharge. And next week, just so you know, that was just me. So if you want to skip it, Will, I know you don't like to come when it's just the rapid recharge. So I'll see you later on Thursday. But this is the book. I don't know if you've ever heard of Laura. I don't know how to say her last name, but maybe somebody in Canada could tell me. But anyway, I'm going to send you an email, Mike, about this girl. Her name's Laura Beauparlant. I'll remember I'll be able to say it better tomorrow or next week. But anyway, it's brand chemistry, and it's about attracting the right clients and keeping them there. And it is a lot about relationships. So I'm going to send you and her an email so that you at least
awesome
can, get to know her. But
yes, perfect.
Yeah. Oh, Demi says Beauparlant.
There you go.
Demi, I'm going to have you say it to me out loud. But anyway, Mike, thanks so much for going so far over. I'm so sorry.
Oh, anytime. It's always so fun. Can't wait to next time.
What another awesome episode. I'm excited. It's a crazy week, but I'm glad to be here with you. You can check all the show notes out. We'll be at rechargingyou.com/335. And if you don't know, you can always sign up to the live link by going to rechargingyou.com/sign up. And then you get on the email list, and then we'll send you an email every week that tells you 30 minutes before the show starts as a reminder, and then also tells you what all the questions will be and what we'll be covering, so you can know if you want to tune in live, which is really fun because we have people from all over the world that tune in live. And you can always follow me at Design Recharge on Instagram and Twitter, and then on LinkedIn, Recharging You, same thing, Facebook on Design Recharge. And you can always go to rechargingyou.com and see what's coming up next, and anything else that we're offering, which is the coaching. It's not I don't know, there's maybe a mouse in my pocket, but it is me and some other people who are in a group, and it's a mastermind group, and it's an incredible group. And if you would like to join, we have a wait list, and you can find more out about that if you go to rechargingyou.com/power station. It's all one word. So check that out. I just want you to know that what I feel Recharging You is all about is helping you by providing you training and coaching. And that's how I am going to guide you as a creative entrepreneur to realize your potential and reach your business and creative goals. It is the home of the Design Recharge Show, which I know you know. It's an interactive web show. That means it's a podcast too, and it means that you can come live and interact and be in the chat. And when I say Paul said something, that's because Paul was there and Paul was typing that in, and it's really cool that we are doing this together. So it's every Wednesday, unless we have a special thing like we do this week. We have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I think it's about hope. If somebody else has done it, then you can do it too. So I hope you'll join us live each week. All right. So I also want you to know that I really value you leaving a review and sharing this with your friends. So maybe there was an episode that really meant something to you and you want to share it. It's really easy to do that. And I really appreciate anytime you can share that. It's on YouTube. It's on wherever you get your podcast as well. It's pretty easy to share a podcast with somebody. You can always become a patron, even for $1 a month. It always helps at patreon.com/Diane Gibbs. My favorite way to build websites is with the Elementor plugin, which I absolutely love. And it makes almost any WordPress theme invincible. This plugin has changed the way I have been able to design websites and build my business. It's helped me niche down. And if you want to check out this, the Elementor plugin is free. And then there's a pro plugin. And that's the one I have an affiliate link for. It's the same price as it would be if you're buying it. It's just that now you got there through me. And so I get a little piece of the pie. And it's bit.ly/D R Elementor. And the links again are all at the bottom. And then there's something new that I've done, and it has revolutionized the way I've been able to use images, videos, music. And I was buying this music just on like in the intros or the After Effects little demo that is in the beginning of this. That is all from Envato, and you just put in your own images. And if I was able to do it, Lord, you can do it too. but they're templates, right? And so sometimes I don't have all these skills to do, and I definitely can't make music. So I love that there's this, but Envato is also graphics, and there's PowerPoints or web templates, WordPress templates. There's everything you can think of. And they have an amazing library of stock photography. That's what I've been most impressed with and what I've used the most. Absolutely. So for a small part, as an individual, I think it's about $200 a year, and then it goes up as you build your team. But these are commercial licenses, and you are able to use the images, and it's unlimited downloads per month. And there's over 2 million creative resources in this. It's amazing. So if you want to check it out, you can go to bit.ly/Envato, Envato, capital D, capital R for Design Recharge. So bit.ly/Envato/D, capital R. Anyway, Audible, of course, I always list Audible. I'm still reading the E-Myth. It is awesome. You will hear more about it tomorrow on the show. And I can't wait to tell you some things that I've been learning in that and something else. But I listen to Audible all the time. If you want a 30-day free trial and a credit for a free audiobook, you can use this link, audibletrial.com/design recharge. And then Skillshare, I did share that. Patricia wanted me to share that in the chat. So that will also be in all the links below. And Skillshare, you can get 2 free months of Skillshare. We talked about Skillshare on the show today, and it's Skillshare Premium. So if you go to bit.ly/Diane Gibbs, really easy, just one N in Diane, and you'll be able to sign up and get 2 free months of Skillshare Premium. So it's a great time to do this, a great time to up your game, learn some things that you've been wanting to learn, or learn something else. It's not just creative stuff. Sometimes it's good to get out of your normal. I've done collage classes, I've done business-minded classes on Skillshare. So I hope that you'll join me. And all these links, again, some of them are affiliate links, so I get a tiny piece of the pie, but I appreciate when you are able to sign up through those. So I will see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let me know what you think. I love comments. I love hearing what has mattered to you. So I hope you guys are getting this okay, because I'm at home. See my curtain? You people who are listening can't see the curtain, but it's just the way it is. Anyway, I'm super excited. I have a new friend, Mike Janda. What an awesome, amazing person. And you guys just need to follow him and eat all his content. All right, so eat it up and don't go outside. Bye.